signing. Because I was going to try, and I knew I wouldn't be able to. Okay.
You got this, girl.
Yes, Dad! So the other day, I caught a show called Border Patrol. Border Patrol on the Mexican-U.S. border. Now, we can't dispute about the amount of airtime that is dedicated to anti-migrant sentiment. In this show, one Border Patrol agent even talked about how he used his hunting skills to find migrants who were walking in the desert. We hear about this in other reports, like rounding up or catching or loading migrants and treating them as if they aren't human, even less than animals. I want to change that corrupt practice and to remind the public that these people are human beings. I want to hold dominant media responsible for telling all sides of the story. This particular show didn't speak about the person who was being detained as a human being at all. They had feelings. They didn't talk about how they may have been afraid, been sad, or how they've been defeated. Never do you hear about that. Never do you hear how scared they may have been as they were detained, what would happen to them, how afraid a woman may have been to be raped again because she'd already been raped in the desert. 80% of women who come through the desert on our southern border report being raped. Nor do we hear about the dumping of U.S. corn into the Mexican market and has left farmers with few or no options and have to find another way to feed their family. There's little press attention toward what she left behind or whom she left behind. Any of you can imagine the pain you would suffer if you were forced to be separated from your baby or from your partner who was sick or who didn't have enough food to eat. You would have found a way. Another case where dominant media refused to address the reasons behind migration is the following. Some of us lost houses in the fire. In Guatemala, recently, an entire village was intentionally burned to make room for a mining company. People were forced off their land, and they had been born where they had been born and where their ancestors have lived for centuries. Companies such as Pacific Rim and Goldcorp of Vancouver and Newmont of Denver move in to extract the resources under that land and result in huge profits to corporations and forcing these families to live elsewhere. Might this be an explanation for migration? Having walked in the desert, I know it is not possible to survive without help. It is not possible to carry as much water as your body needs to survive. You cannot walk that many miles without turning your ankle, without getting cuts and blisters, which are further aggravated by the heat. And if one of your falls results in a fracture, you have met your death on the desert floor. Because those who survive such a violent journey are superhuman to me. And there should be a station at the end of this side of the desert giving them an Olympic medal because they are superheroes. These are the people I want living next to me as my neighbors. Would dominant media report on the realities of migration, the current immigration debate would be drastically different. There has been a process of systematic dehumanization of this population to a point where atrocities can be committed upon these people without public outcry. Public media is under attack in this country today, in terms of funding and in terms of function, where there is really not freedom of speech and freedom of assembly and freedom of press in this country right now, all of which is why independent media is so important. I had a slideshow to show you all, and it had a picture of a lot of stuff, like my arrest, and to prove how freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, all of those rights were taken away. I'd like to end with something that happened to me this past Sunday. Two things happened. Having worked so hard for human rights and responsible journalism, I find it offensive and unacceptable to continue to see words like illegal used in our daily camera. This is last Sunday's paper. This human beings illegal reminds me of Nazi Germany, where an entire population of people were also called illegal. We need to remember the internment camps of World War II, and we need to recognize the parallels and similarities between other moments in history and now. I, for one, will not be able to face my children with the knowledge that I did not do something to prevent what's happening and the kind of mentality we have today. How many of you who work for the Daily Camera have worked here for more than 5 years? And no one? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Anyone more than 10? Yeah? Lots of you? Okay. Anyone for 18? Okay. Well, I worked for the Daily Camera for 18 years this upcoming month. And so I decided to do a story about having grown up in the Daily Camera warehouse. As I was interviewing people, memories returned to me about the repressive conditions under which newspaper carriers work. A newspaper carrier means you do everything a postal carrier does, except you do it backwards and in heels. 7 days a week, and if you're injured or your car breaks down, you're without job security or protection. People who have been delivering for years reported that they've lost their jobs after slipping on ice or falling downstairs. Memories come back to me of hearing women who have been raped while delivering or even killed on the job. It's dark and it's very dangerous. In the past, people who have reported to the then publisher of these unacceptable working conditions and have then were then threatened and fired for reporting this. Unionizing has been prevented with the same threats. What was shocking to me was that this discovery was to discover about this publisher that he had fired people, that he had told people they weren't allowed to unionize for their rights. He walked into the Daily Camera warehouse this Sunday. I started to cry seeing him, that he walked in and he's still employed by this company. I accept this recognition on behalf of the newspaper carriers of this company who are really employees and not independent contractors. And on behalf of my friend Mark Whitaker, who was killed delivering newspapers for the Daily Camera in the mountains. Thank you.